All right, good evening, everyone. At this time, we need to determine that we have a quorum, and it looks like all of us are here at this time. We can now call the meeting to order. At this time, we need to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Smith?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, board members, we need to approve the agenda as presented. Who on the board would like to make the motion to approve the agenda?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Mr. George has made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hall is seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. At this time, we will now move into the recognitions section or portion of our meeting.
Yes, ma'am,
Real?
Madam Chair. This evening, I'd like to recognize 4 students from Surf City Elementary School. If I can have Isabella Campoloni, Grace Jones, Colton Kaufman, and Carolina Martin come to the front, please. Would you guys come up here? Stand right beside each other in line. Face this crowd. So these students have all been selected as part of the North Carolina Honors Chorus. The Honors Chorus brings together the most skilled elementary age singers from across the state. Hundreds of audition tapes are submitted and judged each year before the final chorus is announced. Typically, the singers meet in Winston-Salem for a performance. For safety reasons, that performance was virtual this year. In fact, the kids have just finished their videos, submitted it yesterday, and the final performance will be released in the coming weeks. So you guys just finished? That's awesome. That is awesome. I wish we had them set up to sing. But can we get some certificates for them? I don't want to surprise them like that.
Well, they can sing Bob and Happy Birthday and all.
Oh, yeah, let's
that'd be awesome.
do that.
You guys can do that. So,
Nice.
this is Mr. Bob. Today is his birthday. So
Can you lead us
y'all
all
put
in singing
together
Happy Birthday to
a
him?
solid birthday song for him? All right, I'm gonna come aside, because I'm not singing.
I love it.
All right, let him have it.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you.
Big picture with you, okay? Here a little bit. Back up a little bit.
There you go.
There you go. Looking good?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Make sure we're just presenting. That looks good right there. All right. Well, y'all waiting for the next one, because the next one, I actually got to participate. Ms. Brown, will you come up, please? Oh, that was video.
Okay, that's fine.
That video is like 2 hours long. We don't want I've got an excellent video there. So basically, what we want to talk about tonight is We have state recognitions, we have local recognitions for our schools. Very rarely does anybody get a national recognition. And there's only a handful of schools in this state that receives that every year. So out of 8, there's only 4 in this category. And I just want to congratulate Pender Early College High School this year for being recognized as a national Blue Ribbon School this year. Jennifer Brown, she's got some staff members here tonight we're going to bring up, and she's going to introduce everybody. We're going to take some pictures. But I want you to understand, this is only a handful of schools in the nation. This isn't a handful of schools in North Carolina. This is in the nation. This is a supreme honor and the first one in Pender County's history. So this is a super big deal, and I don't think I can address it enough. Just please, if you would, send the schools their recognition, send them a hello, send them a thank you for what you're doing. They're doing tremendous work with kids. Come on up, guys. Let's get a big picture.
While the staff is coming up, because I definitely want each of them to introduce themselves, and I need everyone to know the application. We are one of 325 schools in the nation, and the application process was quite extensive, and it was more than I would have been able to complete. But when I started talking to them, they said each one of us will take a part. So it's truly a staff effort. And I need Kevin Taylor. I need Mr. Taylor to come up here because he was principal at the school for the year that this started, the recognition. So. And now each person will introduce themselves and tell what you do at our school.
I'm Brett Wallace. I teach math and science.
I'm Sandy Robinson. I'm the school treasurer and the data manager.
And rules everything up.
I'm Carly McCullough. I teach social studies in our first year seminar course.
I'm Olivia Sprayer and I teach English.
I'm Matt Scheinfield, I teach math.
I'm Melissa King and I teach biology.
I'm Natasha Snyder and I'm the college liaison.
I'm Betty Shedler and I'm the instructional assistant. Tina Tucci, office support.
Eric Hancock, English teacher.
We're going to set, Bobby, you want to set these guys up for a good picture? We're going to use this one. But you'll also see a huge badge that we'll have put on the wall. Thank
PTA is purchasing us a wall plaque.
We try to beat them to that, but they already beat us to that. And there'll be a flag that's being sent from DC for them to fly in front of their building.
Wow.
This will be something great to see from home. You guys want to?
You want to go tall or short? Or go tall and stand on the riser?
It's all relative, all relative.
My boots might be a little
I can see over your head, don't worry.
All right. Let's get those guys in.
You get them, just, and then.
So then have the back row kind of shift this way just a little bit. Fill it all up. There you go. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Yeah, let's get the board in. Come on.
Everybody go.
Shift and shift.
Perfect.
Right here in the bracket.
Can you get everybody in there?
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. Awesome.
I usually read, so they're getting me that statement. It's shorter. There's a longer statement I read for public comments.
Just make it up.
Or I can do that. I can just wing it. It's okay, Todd, I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead. Well, figure this out. Is everybody, okay, wait just a second. It's all right, it's okay. There's some seats up here on the front too. Oh, don't be shy, principals, I see you back there. I'll call you out. That's right. Not true, you have to come to the front pew.
Once an hour.
All right, is that everybody there? Okay. All right, at this time, we're moving on to the public comment section. The Pender County Board of Education welcomes comments from our parents, students, and community. The open session for public comment is designed for the Board of Education to listen and respond at a later time if necessary. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. I think we have one person who's speaking in person, then we have one call-in, correct? Usually I read something a little bit longer. Due to the climate that we have experienced in the past, it's just necessary that we do that. But basically, it's just to add that we would all treat each other with respect. So if there's any profanity or any threatening wording used, we will end that public comment, and we will also end the recording at that time. Okay? All right, at this time, Robert Hewitt. Oh, there he is.
Hi, I'm Robert Hewitt.
You can come. You want to come right up here? But your voice projects quite well. You should be a principal. You should be a principal or a teacher because it projects quite well. Just saying.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh, he is a teacher. Oh.
I would just like to give strong and public support for freedom of choice, whether to wear masks or to have the experimental mRNA injection, which is wrongly called, I believe, a vaccine. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, sir. Very well done. At this time, we'll move now to the recorded comments that were called in.
The computer is acting up just a little bit.
Yes, my name is Louis Domingo. My question is, since the pandemic has started, what has Pender County Board of Education and Pender County Schools done to make the educational staff of Pender County feel appreciated and wanted for doing a job during this pandemic? Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, we are now moving on to the information part of our agenda, and we will begin with school threats and bullying information with the Pender County Sheriff's Department. Rowell and Sheriff Cutler, and they're all in suits. I'm not used to this. Just to preface before we begin, if that's all right, we have all pretty much asked for this to be added to the agenda tonight, just due to we have had incidents happen within the past month or so. We've seen a rise on some things, and Captain Rowell and I have talked some and talked about, as parents, what would we want our parents to know in our community, and as parents ourselves, what things do we think of that we need to share. So that's why they are here tonight on the information part of the agenda. Just wanted to preface that, if that was okay.
Thank you for having us. Two or three weeks ago, we had kind of a uptick there for a few days where we were seeing just school threat issue after school threat issue. A lot of these things you may or may not have been apprised of, but whenever that started, we ended up going to the media with the sheriff, the district attorney, and Dr. Hill to do a public safety announcement to put out to the community ways that parents can help, alleviate some of these issues. We've talked about it with the media. We're all giving kids cell phones, and, you know, not everybody is staying on top of what their children are doing with the phones. Not only our district, but across the country, you're seeing increases in school threat. It's easy to get behind a keyboard, push out a message. Most of the time, the students don't have any idea what the consequences are, and they don't think about all of the folks that it impacts. They're thinking of a quick fix, you know, maybe being cute, maybe being funny, or it may be whenever most of us were in school, you had other means of getting out of school, whether it was false fire alarms, bomb threats. The kids these days are using the cell phone because that's what they have access to, and they're using these social media platforms. We've been pushing the report, don't repost, really, you know, trying to get that message out, because what we're seeing whenever one of these messages pops up, kids are genuinely concerned about their friend's safety. They're sending the message to their parents, to their other friends, and before you know it, it's like a wildfire going through dry tinder and leaves. It's just, it erupts and it gets so big so fast. Whenever Dr. Hill first got here, one of the first things that he did as far as working with the sheriff's office, we started a safety committee. That safety committee 3 or 4 years ago came up with this report, don't repost. We were trying to make something simple that people could remember, that it was easy, and we could get the message out, don't be resharing this stuff. And so, you know, from the sheriff's office standpoint, anytime that we get a threat that comes in, we're going to start working it immediately. Whether it's the middle of the night, you know, in recent cases we have served search warrants at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That's what we're going to do to try to keep our students safe. The students can't learn if they can't go to school feeling comfortable and feeling safe. So that's what we're trying to accomplish that. We just ask that parents would assist us with that. The old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It's not just the sheriff's office responsibility, it's not just the school's responsibility, but it's all of us working together so we can have a safe environment for our kids to go to school and learn. Anything that you have a question of more specifically than that, or?
You explained the consequences of reposting that, of spreading that? I mean,
The charge itself is a felony, the way that it's worded. So every person that takes and screenshots that and reposts it could technically be charged with posting or communicating threats of mass violence on educational property. Unless they put some type of disclaimer above it that, hey, this is just for information purposes and trying to help you, you know, anybody that's sharing it. And so that's one of the things that most parents aren't aware of that. Again, most students don't realize the consequences, and they don't stop to think about, you know, it happens so often that I don't want to say that kids kind of laugh it off and say, hey, we don't have to go to school tomorrow. But, you know, most of us in here are parents. We're not going to send our kids to school if we think that there's a chance that they're not coming home. And so that's just another layer of kids know that their parents are going to err on the side of caution. They push the button and send that message out. You know, I'm not saying that's the only reason why it's happening, but certainly that is, you know, you've got to take that into account as well. Thankfully, most of the threats that we have encountered have been just that. They're the false threat of violence on educational property. It hasn't been, we haven't found a case yet where we've had actual plans or access to firearms, things like that. So whenever we work one of these threats, if we determine that the student doesn't have access to firearms or no capability to carry out that threat, then that's where we're going to look at it more or less as it being an uncredible you know, threat against the school, and determine that there is no threat to the school at that point.
so hypothetically, if you serve a warrant and you find out that student does have, the parent has firearms, can you explain what comes out of that house when you leave?
Well, it would depend on, like I said, so far we haven't had that situation present. But whenever we go to a residence, typically we're looking for any type of electronics devices that can be used to access social media. It may be mom and dad's computer, mom and dad's laptop, tablet, cell phone, you know, and just depending upon the investigation itself, if we're looking at, say, a Snapchat or an Instagram message, you know, without knowing what computer was used to access that, we're probably gonna ask to take everything in the residence. And so if we get there and see that there's firearms in the residence and a juvenile would have access to those without the parent, you know, being there at the residence, there are some laws that concern the firearms. If a child gets a hold of a gun and takes it to school or does certain things with it, where the parent could be charged as well. You know, again, thankfully, we haven't had that scenario by way of the threats that we've worked and handled. But it just, like I said before, it goes back to parents being involved, what their children are doing, keeping an eye on it. There's several apps and, you know, different things that are out there where parents can keep an eye on what their children are doing online. You know, we don't typically give them a car and just cut them loose without watching to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be. We don't need to do the same thing with a cell phone or a computer. So.
Well, thank you. I've had several people that didn't understand, parents that didn't understand that because my kid did it, I'm responsible too.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that parents realize that, you know, when you come to the house, there's a good chance that you're going to take whatever's there that you need to take to search, whether it belongs to the student or the parent.
Well, and talking about that too, part of the law does allow for parents to be held financially responsible for the threat response, the investigation into that threat. You know, you start talking 5 or 6 people on overtime, you know, after hours, and that's just on a small scale. It wouldn't take very long to end up, you know, with a rather healthy bill if you're talking about multiple schools, multiple school districts. Because what we've seen a lot of times, it may have one school listed, but then you end up having copycat or other issues, and then you're talking, you know, it could be multiple school districts. For Pender County to be a relatively small county, we're very proactive in the school safety side of things that we're doing. I meant to bring it with me, but we had a teacher, I'm sure all of y'all are aware, we teach the ALICE training to all of the staff in the schools. It prepares them for a mass casualty incident, not just an active shooter, but other incidents. We had a teacher in our district that went through that training here in Pender County, and her office was right down the hallway from where the New Hanover High School shooting took place. She sent us an email thanking us for the training that we had offered because, you know, she felt comfortable what to do, knew how to respond appropriately, and hadn't necessarily gotten a whole lot of training other than that. And so she was extremely appreciative of what we've offered in our district by way of that. So.
Well, I'd just like to thank you all for what you do and how fast you do respond, and also the school staff that's involved. You know, we get the message out, I think, fairly quickly. Unfortunately, one of the local news channels last week run a story of a neighboring county that there was some complaints about that not happening, but they used our footage. So I'd like to apologize for that. But I think we do a great job of getting a credible or uncredible threat warning out to the parents and let the parents make the decision how to proceed. I think that your expertise in that has helped make that possible to get it out in a timely manner.
Well, I appreciate that. We just, again, for all of the principals, we meet with the principals every month. So we all have a really open dialogue, and I've talked to almost every one of them at some point at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. None of us like doing that, but we know that that's part of what it takes to keep our students safe. So they're just as much a part of that team as we are.
Thank you. Dr. Hill, thank you to your staff that
Absolutely.
stays up all Was it last week? I guess y'all were up all night because
3 o'clock in the morning.
the text started coming in at about 9 and
They tend to be,
still getting them all night. So
it's kind of like when your baby comes, they tend to be at the most inopportune moment. Isn't that right, Brandon? So, but they do, you're looking at people that make it happen. It's unreal how fast they make it happen. And, I mean, Mr. Taylor standing there, but all these principals, I mean, this is truly a team effort, and I can't speak highly enough of the Sheriff's Department and the outreach and what they're doing. It's amazing. And kind of while we're on that topic too, even all public safety here. I mean, we've got a great relationship with them. I mean, i.e. the fire we had in the storage building or the storage modular unit that happened on Saturday morning or Friday night really late, and it was completely handled. 15 hours later, it's investigated, insurance, clean, and ready for kids. 15 hours.
it's nice that we have that working relationship with those organizations.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for doing
Thank
that
you,
public
Sheriff.
service announcement. I seen that, with Dr. Hill and David. That was nice.
Well, like I say, we appreciate the working relationship that we have with the school board, school system, and our office. It just makes things run smoother, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
We appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before you walk off, I wanted to ask the question, because y'all got gone a little bit quicker. Compared to, I think we'd leave on a positive note. I do know we've had some school violence going around in our different schools, but compared to the other districts, I do think that we are a lot lower on that type of, because I know you're talking a lot about online and all, but we're talking about actual physical assaults. Compared to other districts, aren't we still one of the more safest districts?
I would say so, yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was on record, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, Dr. Hill, it looks like we have district COVID-19 protocols process, including an AFS update.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Bloomerite has the latest numbers.
Madam Chair, members of the board, just a couple of updates. So as of posting yesterday for last week's numbers with our confirmed positive and the currently excluded, and then those are of course being followed through with the local health department. So that's in the far right-hand corner. For those in the audience that don't know where that can be found, it is updated every Monday on the Pender County Schools District website. You just go right to the front landing page. Right near the top, you'll see a big yellow box. Click on that. That gives you the latest numbers for the week previously. One of the things that we're doing right now with the opting in of testing, that's moving very quickly. So for those parents that either have or are interested in opting in to testing, diagnostic testing, if you go to the main district landing page, in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see something that says COVID-19. You click on that, it will take you to the on-site COVID testing sign-up process, where one can opt into the testing process. It's very straightforward. Read through the directions, self-explanatory. For parents that want to sign up their children or staff members of the particular sites, all you need to do is just go to your school that has a nice big mascot of the wonderful logos that are on there, and then click on the appropriate documentation. Click on the text and just follow through the process. It's very straightforward. The first 2 pages, when going through, it's asking if you're positive and symptoms and things like that. That is an artifact of the third-party website that is being used. They've acknowledged, Mako testing has acknowledged that it's a little bit confusing, but once you get through that first process, it's straightforward. It gives you all the information you need to opt in. And just so you know, I pulled these numbers at approximately 12 p.m. today, so right about noon, we have approximately 200 parents who have opted in, either their students or staff members, for testing. We have contracted, predicated of course pending board approval, through Maxim Healthcare, some 6 nurses or 6 positions for nurses. We have 2 that showed up on Monday, 2 more that are in process, so we're working through the HR process, and then there'll be another 2. And what we will do is we will farm them out to basically the feeder patterns. So they'll be able to roam, do the testing, do the investigatory process, do the contact tracing, and assist the health department and our school nurses in additional duties. So that is all in process. Mr. LaFawn and his people are helping get up all the boxes for where we would drop the tests to be picked up on a daily basis so they can be turned around. And so everything should be in play. We're thinking fully, I think by the end of this week, which will be ahead of where we had thought. So that's where we're at. Questions?
I'd just like to make a comment, and I'm making a comment as a mama right now. I have, and I don't mind telling everybody, I have signed all 3 of ours up for the testing, and I'll tell you why. If you've never had to go through the process of waiting for the results to come back, and your child is having to miss 3, could be longer days, to me, this is a gift as a mama, because literally if your child comes to school, let's say my child goes and he might have symptoms, and I've signed up for him to be tested or she to be tested, I could easily have those results back in 24 hours, and if it's negative, then my child could be coming right back to school. I mean, that is a life changer for me as a mom. So I just, as people are listening, I see that some of, numbers aren't as high as actually I thought they would be, to be honest with you. And I know it's choice and it's what you want to do, but just understand that literally in 24 hours, we could have our children back in schools instead of having to wait 2 or 3 days. That is a long time to wait. And every day my child was like, because we experienced this, and he was like, gosh, are the results back yet? I'm like, no, baby, they're not back yet. And you're just having to wait, and it just causes more and more anxiety. So this is, to me and my husband, this was the way to go. So I don't mind putting myself out there on that.
And it's free.
And it's free, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Questions?
Anyone else, questions, comments?
And I think that we have Erica.
Just a question on what type of test is used.
You can't.
Miss Aubrey, you here?
Must not be here.
She's not. She said she would be. I'll find out why she's not.
We have AFS coming every month now to report on their ability to
okay.
use building administration and sanitary. So we'll find
Okay,
out where
so-
they're at tonight. They're supposed to be here.
Well, she was here, and she says that she had to leave her son's being transported from football practice to the hospital with a broken arm.
That's a good reason.
Oh,
Excellent reason not to be here.
well, yeah, no, we're good.
So I think we'll be okay.
So Dr. Bloomwright, just for clarification, the nurses that we're hiring, that's coming from state funding as part of this testing program?
Yes, sir. It's actually a grant that is being funded through DHHS, and so it's a reimbursable on a monthly basis. So we pay, and then they pay us back. And it goes for the staffing, it goes for the supplies, it goes for technology necessary to access all the programs. So.
Would you remind us again what type of testing that is?
It is a PCR testing.
Thank you.
PCR diagnostic testing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Considered the gold standard.
All right, at this time, anything else? That was it for that section? Are we good? Okay. 7.3, revisions to policy 4040-7310, staff-student relations, first reading. Dr. Moore, excuse me.
Good evening, staff, board members. So this policy, of course, and several others that we receive ever so often with some of the recommended updates. You will notice, of course, this one, as you look at the red inked section, lots of details have been added, describing so much more and detailed the restrictions on staff-student relationships. So it's here, of course, for first reading, and we'll bring it back before you next month for approval.
Board members, any questions, concerns? I do like how it was very detailed, though. Thank you. There shouldn't be really any questions about this.
Mr. McPherson has been reviewing this with us as well.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right, next on the agenda, Dr. Hill.
Mr. Anthony and Ms. Highsmith.
I'm sorry.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet, but, oh.
Okay, we're not. At this time, Topsail Elementary School renaming proposal, Dr. Hill.
Yes, ma'am, there's Mr. Keith. Would you like to come up, please?
Hi there, Mr. Keith.
Good evening, everybody. Y'all know I missed all that up there.
I bet you do.
I don't know what I missed worse, the law enforcement, them 16 years or the 16 years in the school system. I highly recommend retirement. I'm here at the last board meeting. I spoke to you in reference to the committee request to the board for a meeting in reference to renaming Topsail Elementary School to its original name, which was Annandale. And at the time, thank you, Mr. George, for referencing me to the email, because at that point I didn't have a copy of the email when Mr. Garrison provided that email to me. And it looked like all the board members, did all y'all receive that email? Well, the concern was only one person responded to the email. I think Mr. Smith and Ms. Fontana asked what exactly did the committee want. Well, the first thing they wanted was to have a ladies and gentlemen's conversation with the board, to sit down with you to discuss what was in that petition. I don't have to go through it since you all got it. And say, why is that important? Let me reference you to, this is the Star News newspaper from June 19th this year. On the front page is the King Tut School. This is where I went first, second, and third grade. All them broken limbs, that's where the teachers were getting switches to whoop. Most of them was for me. But this is the headline of the paper, as vibrant as our heritage. This is one of the Rosenwald schools, and it is now on the historical registry. It's on Pender County's education trail that they go through. The Topsail School was an equalization school, and very briefly, this is a good time to say, a lot of people don't like to reference things from the past. The state of North Carolina started funding public education in 1838 for white children. For black children, it was 1906, so it was a 6 to 8 year gap. From that point, most of the schools for the black children were built with money from the Rosenwald Foundation. That's where this school came from, where people, the community had to raise funds, and the Rosenwald School. Well, the counties start picking up, but Pender County wasn't one of the wealthiest and the fastest counties in the state, so it got late. But Topsail Elementary was what you call an equalization school. That was one of the first schools built in the county for black students. There was a modern day school. Well, had all the modern facilities and stuff. Well, fast forward a little bit, another 10, 15 years, integration came along. Nobody wants to talk about the things that happened back then, because there was some good, there was some bad, and there was some ugly. It happened. But one of the things that happened was in the transition, the school's name, Annandale, was taken away. There's quite a bit of history there. I never realized there was a train depot and all that stuff there where the school was. All records, everything disappeared. What the committee was wanting, just like this, a piece of heritage to kind of reestablish a piece of the heritage was there. They wanted to meet with you all, sit down and take a look at how something could be done to get there. And that's why that's why I was here then. That's why I'm here now, because it's something I highly recommend that you all get with them, sit down and discuss it. A lot of things can be accomplished if you sit at the table. I think out of the 5 of you, only one person responded to the request. And so, they didn't know if the message didn't get through or what, but that's why we're here. I have a couple of people to speak, and I know this is something not a decision you can make tonight, but in the near future somewhere, if you will get with them, sit with them and discuss it and see which way you can go with it. If you will do that for one of your old board members, I would appreciate it. And I think got a couple of people to speak to you now, but just consider that meeting with them to see which way you can go with it. And I appreciate y'all for listening.
Good evening. I will say that this is a pleasure and an honor to stand before the Board of Education this afternoon. I retired in 2007. For 29 and a half years, I worked for Pender County Schools. And it really is an honor, and I'm a lifelong member of Pender County. I attended school, the one-room school, one teacher, grades 1 through 6, wooden school building, outside toilets, pump for water, heat we used coal and wood. We had one teacher. And then in 1956, they built a brick building called Annandale School. In 1956, I attended Annandale School. I was 12 years old. I went to the 7th grade. And when I got there, I experienced things that I had never experienced before, just the ordinary things, the basic things that you would have now that we take for granted. Because in the old school, we didn't have bathrooms. And my house that I dwelled in, I didn't have a bathroom. We had outside toilets, no running water, no hot or cold water. And we heated by coal and wood. So can you imagine how excited I was when I went to Annandale Elementary School? There was a brick building, and then there was a principal. And matter of fact, this principal taught me when I was in the 8th grade. And I had one teacher for 6 years, and when I got in the 7th grade, I had 3 teachers, 3 different teachers. That was amazing. And no, not that. We had a bathroom with running water, sinks, toilets, a water fountain in the hallway, and we had a cafeteria. We could have breakfast, hot meals, and lunch. But in the old school, we carried our lunch to school in brown bags, and we all had our names written on them because it was in a big tub. Everybody put their lunch bags in, and you make sure you put your name on it because you get the wrong lunch. Sometimes it was good to get the wrong lunch. Yeah, okay. So I'm standing before you because this would mean so much to me before I leave this earth, because at that school I realized there I could really, really be something, because I saw teachers dressed up, look like me, and men look like my daddy or my brother. And so I ask you to really, really look deep down in your hearts and see if there is any way that you could restore the school back to Annandale School. Not for me personally, yes, for me personally, and my peers and my entire community. And another thing I don't want to forget, going to that school, we had the opportunity to meet other kids from other neighborhoods, because 5 neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, went to Annandale School, Browntown, Hassan Creek, Woodside, Topsail, Edgecombe. And we got the opportunity to meet new people. And what tops it all, we rode the school bus. Because before we had to walk to school, cold, winter, sleet, or snow. We had to walk to school, but we rode a school bus to school. And to be really, I would like just for you just see in your heart that you can please restore, think about it. The Annandale School, the North Topsail Elementary School now, back to Annandale Elementary School. And I sure will keep it in mind that you have all, it will not, I know it's not going to happen overnight. You know, we got to have patience. I know that. So just right now, just think about it, and I sure appreciate it. Did I tell you my name? My name is Pauline Moore Lewis. And thank you. Okay. And every one of you, I hope that the love of God be upon you, within you, and all around you. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pauline.
If I could make one correction on that, it's actually the Topsail.
Topsail.
Not the North Topsail.
Oh, that's where I'm retired from. That's why I
Good evening. My name is Minnie Hardison Kirkland, and my story is the same as Pauline's, so I won't repeat everything that she has said, but we do acknowledge that Topsail Elementary and Annandale have significant history. It is our fear that Annandale will lose its history, and that's why we would like to see it memorialized. And like she said, Annandale may earn its history when it opened its doors in 1956 to children of color, like she said, into a new school with rooms, bathrooms, everything. And so we would like to see Annandale's history not lost, but memorialized by restoring its name. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Ann Toby. I was a Nixon back then, but it's Ann Toby now, but it's still my name. And as what has already been said by Ms. Lewis and Ms. Kirkland, we're not going to, it's true. It's true. We all come up the same way. But because of Annandale, we all together. I'm from I went to the Browntown School. She went to the Topsail School. Pauline went to Woodside School. Minnie went to the Edgecombe School. But now, the Annandale brought us all together.
Amen.
And what everything's been said, has been said is true. And we do thank you all for hearing us. But there's something about a name. It's something about a name. And Annandale is our name. And we just asking you all to give us back our name. It's something about a name.
I would just like to add too, my name is Frances Hansley Morrissey. Because when I went to Annandale, it was Hansley. But when I started out to school, I just want to say this. I walking over a mile to school, to that one-room school for 4 years. And when it came time for us to go to Annandale, we ride on that big yellow limo, we thought we were going someplace.
Yellow limo.
And we did go someplace. We moved up in the world. And we went to, yes, we came from east side to the north side, but we moved up in the world. And when we went to Annandale, as I said, rode on that big yellow limo and was standing out there that morning, waiting on that school bus, we thought we were going someplace. Although we didn't have to ride a long ways, but when I walked to school, I walked, as I said, over a mile to school, to that one-room schoolhouse that's already been stated. We didn't have inside bath, we didn't have inside plumbing, none whatsoever. And what our lunches we had to make them. We had to take them to school. Most of the time it wasn't always bought bread either that we had. Maybe biscuits, leftover biscuits that we had made sandwiches out of to take to school that morning or whatever. And some of them said they had to put them all in a bucket, but we didn't. We just kept it under our desk, and whatever, that's what we got to eat. But it was food, but we just want our name back, and we just thank you, each and every one of you, for listening to us and allowing us to come and speak, and just take it to heart. That we're not trying to take anything from anybody, but we would just like to have Annandale Elementary School named back to us. And so many of the things we did when we got there, we met other students, as already been said. We came from 5 different communities, and we got to meet each other. We had one teacher at that time for one class. When I started there, I was in the 5th grade, and I thought it was all so nice to have a desk all to myself, and desks that hadn't been scribbled on, and somebody's initials had been scribbled on, and we thought that was so nice. And we walked into school, walked down a long hallway to get to the 5th grade, and my teacher, I remember her name, my teacher was Miss Wagner. She was the first 5th grade teacher, and I remember all of that, and we had activities. We were able to shared activities, different activities we had at Annandale that we didn't get to have at our one-room school because we had 6 students, 6 grades there and 1 teacher. But we were able to have just 1 teacher and so many different activities, and we were so proud of them. And came that day when, in the 8th grade, when we looked forward to graduating. We had a big graduation from the 8th grade and went off to high school. And we were so glad to be leaving this nice school, going to high school, but we never forgot Annandale. And we just asked you to find it into your hearts. Please, just restore the name back. Just restore it back to us. We're not taking anything from you. We just love the name.
Because of Annandale, we have been the best of friends over 65 years. Because of it. Over 65 years because of Annandale. We've been in the 5th grade.
And we've been hanging out together ever since. And I want to tell you the joke my brother said. He said he do believe, he doesn't know which one of us, but he do believe we got the same dad. But we've been hanging out a long time. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you guys for hearing us about Annandale.
Thank you so much.
I sent an email, and if you have any questions, and thank God for replying, and contact me if you have any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So moving right along, we're now moving into the next informational item, Mount Calvary for Leadership Development Partnership Vaccine Clinics. Am I correct? Yes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us this time. My name is Cheryl Highsmith, and I am a community health worker with Mount Calvary Center for Leadership Development. We bring you greetings on behalf of Dr. Jimmy Tate and Dr. Robinson, who both had prior obligations and could not be here tonight. They send their highest regards. We presently have 4 locations, 1 in Pender County, 1 in Duplin County, and 2 in New Hanover County. We serve 9 counties: Pender, New Hanover, Columbus, Brunswick, Bladen, Sampson, Holt, Scotland, and Robertson counties. We are not vaccine providers. We assist the providers.
Good evening. My name is Antron Anthony, Community Liaison for Mount Calvary Center for Leadership Development. And we're just going to come here today just to tell you a little bit about our organization. Mount Calvary Center for Leadership Development was developed through a group of leaders of Mount Calvary University. Several Southeastern North Carolina grassroots community leaders came to the university seeking help to train and promote competent and aggressive local leadership. Historically, many communities have had to address many challenges, the lack and abundance of trained leadership aimed at their interests. The university accepted the challenge and immediately began to develop. Our mission statement at Mount Calvary Center for Leadership Development mission is to educate, enable, and prepare grassroots persons to become better individuals and advocate for economic, political, and social change for the betterment of the community. So some of the programs that we do at Mount Calvary is our Vic Academy, where we take middle school students through a 6-week course. Some of them have problems at home and they don't really get the chance to get out. So we take them through jobs that they might want to go through their career. If it's in science, if it's in, they want to be doctors, we take them to different organizations, different hospitals. We take them to veterinarians. So they go through a 6-week course and it's very informative and they really enjoy it. We also have our Mount Calvary Diversity, Equity, and Task Force, which includes a lot of people through the communities of Burgaw, New Hanover, and also Brunswick County areas. So today what we come to talk about is our community health program. We reached out to Pender County to try to assist with your vaccine clinics and things of that nature. We're not the providers. We're here to pretty much show our support in any way that we can do here at Mount Calvary. We have community health worker Ms. Cheryl, which is here tonight. She works the county and she does everything that she can to give people the information about COVID-19, but that's not our only goal.
October was the month of breast cancer, and we held a breast cancer tea and also a breast cancer walk. The month of November is diabetes awareness, Alzheimer's awareness, hospice and palliative care awareness, and hypertensive awareness. So for the month of October, all our events will be planned around those health initiatives.
So these are just some pictures that I put in to kind of show you what we do as far as community health workers for in your county, Pender County. So these are the locations of our 3 different locations up here, but these are all the other ones. So we are here to show our assistance, and if anything that we can do as far as Mount Calvary is concerned, please don't hesitate to give us a call, email, or you can talk to Ms. Cheryl. She'll leave her contact information, and we're just here to help.
I do have a question. The question I have on 7.5, it says that you have a request in partnership for vaccine clinics. What exactly is that? I mean, what exactly does that look like? I know you said you're not talking about y'all want to come in and do vaccines. You're talking about doing what, information or?
Well, so what we'll do, we'll reach out to our DHHS to give us the material to pass out to the different communities in Pender County. We canvass the areas, giving out information. We also go door to door, just providing information to, if they have questions about the COVID-19 vaccine, we can answer all of those with our different community health workers. So that's pretty much what we do as far as when it comes to that aspect.
So it's not requesting us to partner in doing vaccines, it's just passing out information now?
Passing out information. If you need help as far as setting up the vaccine, we have people in place to do that. We have done many in Pender County, right there at our site, right there in Burgaw, right here in Burgaw. So yes, anytime.
As a community health worker, we have found out that there are a lot of people who don't understand the health disparities. So that's why each month there's a different health that we address and promote. Just going out explaining, passing out health education material and assisting in whatever way that we possibly can to help our communities.
And we also help with food pantries. We have a food pantry there at our organization. We are also hiring now. We're fully staffed and looking for different people that may be interested in working for Mount Calvary. So if we can kind of put that bug out there, if anybody looking for a job. I'm just trying to think of some more other things that we do. So I know that we do partnerships with the schools to do with the Vicar County, which I talked about earlier. So if y'all have any questions or any comments or any concerns that we can address tonight, just let us know. Or later.
So a question about the food pantry. So you have one on site, the one right here on 117.
Our site is actually in Wallace.
Okay.
We can service all the counties that we use.
And within Mount Calvary, we have a program which is the SSP 2.0, that if anyone tests positive for COVID or is in quarantine or isolation or has any other disparity that requires them to be at home, we will provide a 14-day, no-cost food for the entire house. Income is not one of the criteria. We will bring it to their door for 14 days. And if they test positive again or are told that they need to be in quarantine, we will start that process back over. Sometimes children are being sent home in quarantine.
So do me a favor, just repeat what you just said one more time, because I want to make sure the public is hearing that.
When children are sent home from school that have tested positive for COVID, or they are told that they need to go home, Mount Calvary will supply a 14-day supply of food for the entire house at no cost. And if they test positive again, Mount Calvary will deliver 14 days worth of food to the door, because the ultimate goal is to keep everybody out of the community, because we want this virus to go away.
Wow. I asked you to repeat that because we have quite a few principals in the room right now, and I think that's probably new. I did not know that, so that is very good information to know. So
And that's one of the reasons why Mount Calvary wanted to be presented tonight, where we could explain the services that we do. And as community health workers, our job is outside in the communities.
right. I will also, I don't mind speaking on the VIC program that you had. I was asked to actually go and speak at that graduation ceremony they had, and they did it in Wallace. And just for all of you administrators out here, I didn't know that much about it. I'd read up on some of it, but we had a couple of students. I think it was one from Pender, and I'm not sure if there were many more, but basically it's 6 weeks, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the students they sign up for this? I don't remember that part. Did they sign up or they were chosen? How's that work?
Yes, ma'am. They have an application process that throughout Dr. Robinson, which is our director, there's some criteria that's required. I can get more information. I'm not really too extensive about the information that's needed, but I can definitely send that to you.
Okay, and just so you know, within these 6 weeks, you're going out and you're basically, they're kind of like job shadowing and seeing what's going on, kind of like for, especially with technical fields and things like that. I think there was some science things that were done, and marine biology, and there was a lot with chefs. That was pretty, of course, that was interesting to me, but that was pretty interesting. So it was a great program. I didn't know that much about it. So
Also programming. That was our first class, game programming.
that's right, game program. That's right. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank y'all so much for your time. And like you said, if Mount Calvary can be of any assistance, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Find myself. Okay. At this time, we're moving on to the next part of our information section, 7.6, Pender Education Partnership Information. Dr. Hill?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Paris
Yes.
will be speaking tonight on behalf of the PED. This is our current president.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
many of you have heard of PEP? All right, well, this is gonna make my job easy. How many of you have heard of PEP? All right, okay. So, for those of you that do not know about PEP, I will briefly go over just a few highlights of what we do and how we were established. I came on board in 2017 as just someone who wanted to get involved with Pender education because I, too, am a Pender County resident. Go Pirates, Topsail High School. Will not tell you what year I graduated because that will tell you how old I am. So,
Mr. George said he'd tell.
no, he will not, because then I'll tell how old he is. No, really, in all seriousness, Pender County is a heartbeat for me. It's how my heart beats. I've gotten involved in several community projects and organizations here in the last probably 5-6 years, and I wear a lot of different hats. But tonight I want to concentrate on my Pender Education Partnership hat. This nonprofit organization actually started with an idea from a parent of someone at Topsail High School who wanted to afford an opportunity for seniors to obtain funds for scholarships so that they did not have to make the choice between education and going into the workforce. And so she began to raise funds, literally, and come up with a dollar amount per scholarship. And so when all of this started out, Pender Education Partnership supported one $1,000 scholarship and one $500 scholarship. Since I've been on board in 2017, just as a board member, PEP began to grow, and in growing, we were able to do one $1,000 scholarship and two $500 scholarships. In 2018, despite Florence and what was going on in the crisis in Pender County, and our spelling bee being halted for various reasons, we were able to increase from one $1,000 to three $500 scholarships. This past year, we did the open mic night event, which I hope all of you at least had privy knowledge of that. That was the worst storm that Friday night you can imagine. We had planned to be outdoors with the stage. We had planned for live music. We had planned for a food truck. We had this grand scheme of things. And that thunderstorm caused serious challenges. And I literally had not even an hour to make a decision. Do I cancel or do we move forward? Well, we moved forward because that's what we do. We don't quit. And despite of Florence hitting and our teachers and staff members in Pender County schools being impacted, in lieu of being able to do the scholarships for that year, we actually wrote 64 checks at $300 each and awarded $10,800 to our Pender County staff that had been impacted by Florence. We could have said no, we could have stopped, but we were determined we were going to do something, and as community leaders and as people that are invested in our Pender Education Partnership, we could not stop the train. So I met with Dr. Hill and folks at Central Office, and I won't ever forget it because he was wearing a Santa Claus hat. I presented him with several envelopes that were worth $10,800, and he went and delivered all of these checks to the various schools, to the teachers, to the custodial staff, to the teachers' assistants, whoever had been impacted. We were able to somewhat help them have a Merry Christmas. And that's one thing I'm very proud of, because Operation Hope, helping our Pender educators, was a slogan I came up with. And everybody will tell you that knows me, and Dr. Hill knows me, I'm a slogan queen. If I can come up with an acronym and I can come up with a heartbeat slogan like that, that's what I'm going to do. Which drives me to Operation SOS, which was support our seniors. We used a life preserver because in 2019, as COVID was onsetting and impacting our seniors from going to school and having to transition to online, they needed a life preserver because they were quite frankly burnt out, and despite the challenges of filling out the applications, When we did that, we were able to award $8,000 in scholarships that year. That was just with online donations and people writing checks. So there really wasn't an aggressive campaign for that. This past year, when we did open mic night, we raised $14,000 on the night that it thundered and lightning and poured rain, and the event was almost canceled. And you talk about a miracle, that was a miracle because our goal was $10,000 and we raised $14,000. Moving forward, right now we are kicking off our teacher mini grant, and our teacher mini grants were actually featured at an event called What's on Tap. And yes, that is a picture of a beer tap for those of you that notice. Again, we picked a theme because this year we actually hosted our State of Education, State of Economy presentation at Salty Turtle, a local Pender County craft beer establishment. And so we created a menu of teacher mini grants. There's 11 of them on here. They range anywhere from robotics to math projects to an EC project that actually 6 teachers are involved in, to special software for diversity learning online, soap making. There's just a lot of different things. But we have about $5,000 worth of grants in this program right here. And Ms. Burns was able to be there, Brad was able to be there, Dr. Hill was there, and they can all tell you that I think collectively everybody in that room was a supporter of what we were trying to do. And as of right now, we are $1,800 shy of meeting our goal. So, no, I'm not soliciting for money at the Board of Education meeting. I want that noted and cameraed and all of that. However, I am going to educate you on an opportunity that you too can partner with PEP, and you can make a donation. And if you would like to do so, please mail a check to P.O. Box 1329, Hampstead, NC 28443. We will not turn any amount away. Every dollar we get goes to the high school seniors in Pender County, or it goes to the teacher mini grants. We are all volunteers. None of us get paid for this. There is no admin overhead. We donate 100% of what we raise, and if we raise more, then we can give more. So if you have something you would like to do for the Giving Tuesday, perhaps, go to Amazon, Amazon Smiles, PEP gets a percentage of whatever you buy for Christmas presents. So you can pay it forward that way too. Just to give you an idea of some other things we're involved in, and it's funny that I'm piggybacking on the Annandale project, because we are also partnering with a project coming up that's going to impact Pender County tremendously. It's called the C.F. Pope Oral History Project. Just to give you a little overview of that, this project is going to deepen human connections in Pender County and inspire community and understanding. There are a few educators and students today that realize just how much African American families sacrificed to obtain education during the segregation era. Pender County has many buildings that still stand from various African American school buildings traditions. During the segregation era, Pender County's African American families paid their taxes, then raised funds again to build churches and support schools, independent schools, and Rosenwald schools. Documenting the history and experiences of C.F. Pope High School alumni is going to be an important step in preserving this rich education heritage, and will generate meaningful discussions and deepen understanding and respect within our community. C.F. Pope Oral History Project is actually something we are doing with Claudia Stack. Most of you are probably familiar with her. She was responsible for doing the documentaries on the Cane Tuck schools and the Rosenwald schools. Claudia came to Pender Education Partnership and said, hey, I need someone to collaborate with me that has the ability to reach the school systems. Would Pender Education Partnership do that? We jumped all over it. We just received a grant for $3,500. Pender Education Partnership is going to partner with Cape Fear Community College. We're going to partner with Mount Calvary University. We are also going to partner with the Board of Education, because I just need you all to get behind this project and push it out, because this is very, very, very important in the times we're in right now. and we want to focus on what the CF Pope building itself stood for. I don't know if most of you realize how many prominent professionals came out of that training school. I've been very educated here recently about some of the professionals that left little Pender County area or Duplin County and went to Pennsylvania and Vermont and became PhDs, and one guy went with NASA, the space program, and there's just a lot of education there, and we're so happy to do this because we're going to help them do this documentary. And when we do the documentary, it's going to go into the Pender County Museum. It's going to be premiered in Burgall in June of 2022, and I'd like all of you to come and watch it because Kate Fear is going to do the filming and the documentary part of it. But Pender Early College High School are actually going to interview the alumni of CF Pope, the training school. And there are 2 members that are still alive right now, 103 years old, and they want to be interviewed. They want to tell it like it is, in the words of the little lady I talked to. So we're going to give her a chance to do that. And this is going to give an opportunity for the students to learn how to interview. If you want to go into journalism, if you want to focus into commentary, this is going to be a big project we're getting involved in. And the last thing I want to share with you is another project that we're going to do very, very soon. It's called the Wall of Fame. So we, again, Pender Education Partnership, are trying to raise awareness and recognize our former and honored educators. For this alumni, we want to recognize former students who have demonstrated excellence in Pender County schools, as well as set them up as role models for today's students of what they can achieve by honoring these folks. So we're going to have a community that will nominate honorees. The selection committee will pick 1 educator and 1 to 2 alumni. We will select them in January, and in May or June, prior to the board meeting, we are going to welcome the honorees, and we're going to have a cake reception with the permission of the board. So what we're going to do, we're going to hang these photos on the wall in the Board of Education meeting room. I understand Dr. Hill already has identified the perfect space for that, and Miss Cindy has approved. And we want to present these folks with a little replica memorializing their honor and take pictures and make a big deal about it because, again, we have some very well-educated, prominent individuals that have come from Pender County, and we just feel like it's time to recognize them. So maybe some of our young people will be inspired to do the same. So on that note, I'm just going to close. Pender Education Partnership, we are making big head waves, and we are trying to do good, and we want to keep doing that. And I've been trying to get in front of you guys for months because I think it's very important that the Board of Education support what we're doing. We are the only nonprofit in Pender County that supports Pender County schools and gives 100% of what we raise for that. And I'm proud to be the president of Pender Education Partnership. And lastly, Dr. Moore, as of tonight, you have 44 effective teacher training graduates and substitutes. We have 10 more in the pocket. So since August of this year, we have put 54 substitute teachers through training with Cape Fear Community. Anybody have any questions?
Nice job. Just for clarification, just talking about the Wall of Fame, I think we talked about it last meeting, or when we were just talking. We talked about putting it up there. We didn't talk about it during the meeting. It was like when we were all kind of milling around, and we all kind of said, and our Brad said about taking those and putting them up there or somewhere. So that's where they will go. They will go in this room, either over there or back there. Correct? All right. Thanks. We know how much you guys do, and you really hit the ground running. And I'm sure I'm speaking for all of us, and everybody can chime in. But thank you for all you guys do.
Thank you.
You work very hard for all of us, and we appreciate it.
We really are. We've got former educators, we've got bankers, we've got investors, we've got social media, techie people. There's a lot of us, and we all have something to contribute, and that's what we do. We work together as a team, and like I said, despite the Florence and despite COVID and everything we've had to transition and do, we just keep right on moving and keep right on going. We will not stop. So
Well, we greatly appreciate it. Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Any other board members, any comments on that? No? All right, so that completes the information part of the meeting, correct? All right, Board Board members, you have in front of you also all the items on the consent agenda. At this time, we need to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Hall has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Madam Chair, can I speak to a couple of items on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
I followed this Topsail Elementary School playground fundraiser. I don't know how many of y'all followed that. That was amazing. That was amazing. The amount of money that was raised in a short period of time. The other big thing that pops out to you on the consent agenda, if you haven't looked at it, is Renovation Church. The service projects that they're doing in the community this coming weekend, I think it is amazing. It's saving the school district thousands of dollars. So I'd like to thank them for that. And I think that was it. And Mr. LaFawn, the paperwork I noticed still has Mr. Ducka and Mr. Allen.
That's been taken care of several times, but I won't take care of it again. Yes, sir, Mr. Jordan.
Any other comments? All right. Moving on to the action part of our agenda and 9.1 Cape Fear Site Road paving project. Mr. LaFawn.
Good evening, board members. I have several items for your approval tonight. The first one is the gravel access road on the Cape Fear School site. It needs to be paved. This was actually a spring project, but we're going to try to push it to the fall to help some of the traffic problems and things on 133 out front. It's part of the fire suppression system. We provide a driveway for people, and rather than wait till the spring, we want to go ahead and try to push it, get it done as soon as possible. It's $57,274.35 from Legion Asphalt, and I'd like to ask the board members to approve that tonight so we can move forward.
Just one quick thing before I ask for a motion. So tell me about how this is going to help, because as you know, you and I have talked, and there was a big wreck out there not too long ago in front of the school. So tell me how this is going to, what's the plan for all of that?
Well, the principals and I haven't really met to make a plan for it, but what it will allow us to do is the elementary school will be able to go to the left when they come in the driveway and go all the way around, and the middle school will be able to go to the right and go all the way, and it'll split those two, and they won't have to stack in the same lines. So it'll almost double the amount of ability to stack the cars in the parent drop off and pick up line. So it will not back up as far.
All right, that makes sense. I get that, because we just had one problem after another. We had this years ago, and I guess DOT came out and did like a traffic study. Am I correct?
That's correct.
And there wasn't enough traffic to warrant.
There was not enough traffic at that time to warrant a right.
Right.
I do not believe that they would. I think they would come to the same conclusion because it's not the amount of traffic that's there from 7 to 8 and from 2 to 3, but over the course of the entire day that they studied. So it's my opinion they would come to the same conclusion. It's why that the access road coming out of the elementary school was built 4 or 5 years ago, was to try to help this problem. At that time, they did not pave the gravel road. But with people going in, there's just a lot of reasons now, other reasons, to do that as well. And it would be a wonderful, I think, side effect to also hopefully eliminate the stacking problem that we have there.
Right.
I know it will be a big help. But if this is approved tonight, we'll meet with the principals and they'll come up with a plan how they would like it to happen on their campuses.
Okay, well, I'll just say I rode out there last week and just looked around to see how it looked and everything, and to kind of get an eye view of what people were telling me about. And I will say that talking about playground equipment, the playground equipment looks really great out there too in the back. Looks very nice, thank you. With pre-K out there also, and with the school, the K-5 part.
I'll let Mr. Nelson know he facilitated.
Well, it looks really, really nice.
Incorrectly and taken care of, so I'll let him know.
Okay, all right. With that being said, board members, would anyone like to make a motion to approve? We wrote that amount down to
I
you.
will, that's what I'm trying to get back to.
$57,274.35.
Make a motion to approve $57,274.35 to Legion Asphalt Incorporated.
All right. And Mr. George has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Next item, HVAC Design Contract Cheatham and Associates. Mr. LaFawn?
Yes, Madam Chair, this has been a long time coming. This is for our ESSER's funding. It's $3,750,000 that will provide upgrades to our HVAC system. It is provided through the federal grant. The purpose for the contract is for Cheatham to go in and do the assessment, tell us what they recommend, what they need, or what they think we need, and then provide guidance and leadership through the renovation process. If you remember, this was something that was going to happen in the summer, and then state rules and federal rules got involved together, and we had to go back to square one. Our committee has reviewed several proposals, and we would like to move forward with Cheatham. There is a couple of nuances that need to be worked out in the wording of the contract, but Cheatham will be our recommendation for the contract going forward.
So, Mr. LaFawn, the Cheatham is not going to do the work, they're just doing the consulting.
They're doing the consulting.
So what, they design the HVAC additions or renovations to your project because they have to, because you're doing substantial renovations to your HVAC system. And then a contractor will be hired through an RFP process to go in and do the designs.
So the $3.75 million pays for what?
That's for the whole kit and caboodle. That's for design services and construction. Correct me where I'm wrong on that.
That is correct.
And
So
so.
not $3.75 million to tell us how to do it, not that?
Oh,
right?
no, sir.
Okay, make sure. All right.
It would be a lot of money.
No, sir.
A lot of money.
Any additional?
Yeah, I was supposed to say, any additional questions? All right. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the HVAC design contract from Cheatham and Associates for the dollar amount that was presented.
Well, can I make a friendly amendment?
You can do what you like.
In substantially the same form as presented, there may be small modifications, but not a lot of modifications to what's already there.
How can we vote on it if we don't know the exact amount?
No, not the amount, the language.
The language,
It's-
not the
it's a-
amount.
it's
I don't know about voting on something that the language can change in, that's,
Well, subject to attorney review then.
Okay, so I would like to amend my agenda then, or my motion, to approve the HVAC design contract with Chatham and Associates for the dollar amount presented, depending legal review.
All right. Mr. Smith has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. George is seconding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
no.
So noted. Carried. All right. At this time, 9.3, Cape Fear Elementary and Middle School Fire System Upgrade. Mr. LaFawn?
Yes, Madam Chair. With the addition of Peel on the Cape Fear campus, it's required by code that we upgrade the fire suppression system, installing a new line and several more hydrants. This is in order to bring everything up to code for that. It will also be very helpful with the pre-K, because in this design, we are having a hydrant installed very close to the pre-K modulars as well. I'd ask that it be approved for $136,300. This will also is to Atlantic Construction and Development for the upgrade of this system, and this will come from, not from capital outlay, but from remaining Hurricane Florence funds.
All right.
I have a question about these hydrants. Are these county hydrants, going off the county water system?
Yes, sir.
They're not fire suppression hydrants, they're just, you can't draft off of these hydrants. There's not,
That's a question that I don't know the answer to.
I do. That's
That's the same.
That's true.
the same
Yes, sir.
issues that
So
we
I
ran
was wondering
into.
why we have to have 3 of them. All they're for is for filling drop tanks, they're running water shuttles. So needing 3 of them, is that, who gave you that number? Who, where did that come from?
That number comes from the engineering study that was done at Norris and Tunstall before we put it out for bid.
It's interesting. Yeah, because they're hydrants in Pender County, the county part of the water system,
Cannot be used.
cannot be used for fire suppression.
Same discussion that you and I had for Pender Lee, remember? Before.
That's why Pender Lee's got that tank, but
It cost how much? $700,000 or something?
The tank at Pender.
The one that I said so much about when it was being built, before y'all were here.
it's just interesting that they're requiring 3 of them that really is not gonna do anything different than one's gonna do. If you have 3 of them in line, because they're all gonna be on the same line, if you use the one at the far end to fill your drop tank on, you can't do anything with the one on the far end because USDA doesn't allow rural water systems to be built for fire suppression. Municipalities can, but rural, yeah. Is this something that has to be done right now, or is this?
We can take it back to the drawing board, Mr. George.
I'd like to talk to Tommy about it, fire marshal, or I guess he's not the fire marshal anymore, but he would know the reasoning behind it. I mean, that's a lot of money for that.
Sure is.
I don't know that we really would get any use out of.
Yes, sir.
Can you check into that and bring that back to
Absolutely.
the table? Okay.
Be more than happy to.
Unless y'all want to vote it down right now.
No, I'd rather get a
No, I'd rather get more
clarification of why.
information.
Because I was going to vote no just for cause on it, but
I'd like clarification why they're requiring 3 of
Need to
them.
be tabled or?
I can
We would just
understand-
table that
I
till
can
next month.
understand one.
Or he'll, here you go.
I'll call Mr. Bassett tomorrow. I have an answer for you as quickly as I can.
Thank you, sir.
All right. But bring it back next month since we're tabling it, so we can
Yes,
talk
ma'am.
about it next month. All right, thank you. All right, well, don't go anywhere, because now we're at
No, we have the rest of the
9.4,
night.
kitchen equipment upgrade.
Yes, Madam Chair, this is ongoing through our, for child nutrition, upgrading the kitchens around the district. This was something that was brought to you early in the summer. This is a continuation of that. This particular, and then possibly will be some more later on, as we're doing it in stages. This particular upgrade is district-wide. You have the specifics in your package, and it's $226,515.67 to be paid from child nutrition funds. And I would ask that that be approved this evening.
I've got a question about that as well. This isn't your department, but I still hear about not enough food and things like that sometimes in the lunches, so is this equipment going to help alleviate any of that?
It won't alleviate any of the supply problems, Mr. Hall, but it will allow for, right now our kitchens are scrambling to keep up with modernization and how things are done. And this will modernize the kitchens and it will make them more efficient.
So this is in no way related to Airmark, right?
It's not, no, I mean, it is not for Airmark. It is, this is going to be our equipment, and it's just a kitchen upgrade.
Because, I mean, I make no secret about it. I mean, I still have, I hear complaints every day about their food, and I think they're well aware of how I voted during their contract, but that's beside the point on this, but thank you.
I make a motion to approve the contract or approve the kitchen equipment upgrade for $226,515.67.
Mr. Smith has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Barnes has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, moving on to 9.5, driver education instructors hourly rate. Mr. LaFawn?
I'm going to let Mr. Smith come up and speak to you about the next 2 items as they're coming out of the Transportation Department. And if you have questions, he would be better qualified to answer them than I would.
Good evening, board members. I'll be very brief. with my recommendation or for approval tonight. Currently, our driver's education instructors in PCS are paid at 2 different rates. Our DPI instructors are paid $22 an hour, and our DMV certified instructors are paid $20 an hour. If there be no further discussion, I'm asking the board to approve that we raise both the DMV and DPI certified driver's ed instructors hourly rates to $27 an hour.
Do we still charge the $65?
We do, yes, sir.
Yeah, we do.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the hourly rate increase to $27 per hour for driver ed instructors.
Mr. George has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Barnes is seconding. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? So carried.
Thank you, board members.
Don't go anywhere, because 9.6 bus driver hourly rate.
Yes, ma'am. Currently, our school bus driver's pay scale starts out at $12.78 and caps out at $17.45. If there be no further discussion, I'm asking the school board to raise the minimum hourly rate to $14 an hour and it cap out at $18.67, please.
So I do have a question on this one.
Yes, sir.
Really maybe a couple of questions. So this will move everybody, right?
Yes, sir.
That's good. So what was the reason for not going to the $15 an hour? Was that too much?
Well, I think basically.
We can run the numbers and see. Yeah.
So we compared to what the
other
other
districts
people
are
around
doing.
us are doing, basically.
Right. Now, I see Onslow, I mean, some of them's close to $15, 15 in Onslow and $14.65 in Sampson. I don't know what New Hanover pays, probably $20, $30 an hour.
They start out at 14.
It's still a hospital.
14, but most school districts, though, do not, when they raise the minimum start rate.
Right.
They do not raise the top rate, which is what we're doing. So our beginning
Right.
driver and our veteran driver will see
An increase.
some increase. Yes, sir.
All right, so a beginning driver would start at 14, and our drivers who have been there the longest would cap out at 18.67.
Yes, ma'am.
But the middle gets nothing?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it doesn't have a scale.
It's
It's a scale.
The minimum rate.
I misunderstood you, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I was just, I'm looking at this, where we're starting and where it'd be.
Yeah, it would be broken down on a 30-year scale, and the minimum rate starting at 14 and the maximum rate going to 18.67, which is
Okay,
a $1.22 increase.
That's what I was fixing to say, everybody's gonna, looks
Yes,
like
sir.
everybody's gonna get the same little bump.
Yes.
How much did you say? Sorry.
It's $1.22.
All right, Madam Chair, I make a motion, we approve the new bus driver, pay schedule. This is what it's called.
I second the motion.
All right, Mr. George made the motion, Mr. Smith is seconding. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so.
Thank you, board members.
Not for you, this is probably for Ms. Chestnut. So they get paid this rate while they're on the bus. So remind me, when they go in the school to do something, what rate? Is this a different rate, different fund, right?
Yeah, what we did a few years ago, if you remember, the teacher assistants who drove the buses, some of them were making less driving the bus than in the classroom, so they
Right.
cannot make any less.
Right, yes.
But some of them do make more driving the bus than they do as a teacher assistant.
Yeah, with the new pay scale, there will be TAs making more on the bus per hour than they do in the classrooms of TA. The hourly rate on the bus will be higher than their TA rate. We find that particularly with the veteran TAs that's been driving a long time. So,
All righty, thank you.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
One quick thing, board members, if you get text messages about a water main break in Burgall, there has been one, and we checked with the utility company, and will not impact the schools in any way, shape, or form. Just so you know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, so that ends the regular part of our meeting as far as our presentations. At this time, board members, it is the time we get comments from each of you. And who would like to start? Mr. Smith? Oh, let's start, Mr. Hall, let's start with you.
The only one I have is I've been getting some calls about the things like bleachers and benches around middle school athletic fields. Or lack of, I should say. I think some may have it, some don't, but Mr. LaFawn, at our next meeting or whenever, could y'all get something together? Like, do they have seating, do they not? What school, you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Just when you can, if you don't mind. I'd kind of like to go over it in a meeting, if we could do that some way, or even a cow or meeting or something like that, but however. Otherwise, that's it.
Ms. Burns?
Well, I wanted to kind of swing back to our visit tonight, from, sorry. There you go. I would like to swing back tonight to our visit from Sheriff Cutler and Captain Rao. It came up in my Facebook memories this morning that this is the 3rd anniversary of the water heater incident at Topsail High School. Now, we all get a big chuckle out of that because thank God it was not an incident that this could have been much more. And I remember the first hour sitting on the couch and watching this and not knowing exactly what it was terrifying. I also remember that just the Tuesday prior to that Friday, myself, Miss Fontana, and Mr. Smith had just won our elections. And it was a sobering reminder of the responsibility that you have as a board member. But the one thing I wanted to pull the good out of this situation, because I remember hearing that the buses that were in the parking lot of the supermarket, people came out of the supermarket bringing them coffee and baked goods. And I remember panicked parents going there to the supermarket to pick up their kids off of the bus. But what really struck me was the sheer volume of law enforcement that descended upon Topsail High that day. That our neighbors, that not only the Pender County Sheriff's Department responded so well, but also all of our law enforcement from neighboring counties. Yes, we got very, very blessed that day, but it's also good to know that sometimes you can just exactly what the response is going to be should something happen, and we are very blessed. So I will leave you at that.
Thank you. Mr. George?
I'm going to be really brief. I just want to wish Miss Burns a happy birthday. It's coming up on the 18th, correct?
It is, thank you.
And today, as we all heard earlier, is Bob's birthday. So everybody wish Bob a happy birthday on your way up. And everyone have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smith?
Yes, ma'am. I just have 2 things that I'd like to share tonight. Last month, I started something that I like to continue to do as long as I'm able to be on the board and recognize one of our staff members. Oftentimes, I get the opportunity to speak with many of the principals in my visits and communications with them, and always impressed by their sincerity of support for their staff, because they know that what makes their school strong is just their students, but also is their support that they have with the teachers and the staff that work with them, not under them, because they'll tell you that they work with them side by side. Tonight, I'd like to recognize one of our staff members from North Topsail Elementary School. She's a school counselor, and she's in her 2nd year in that position after spending several years as a 4th and 5th grade classroom teacher. She lends a listening ear for staff members, students, and parents alike, and also she teaches character education for children of all grade levels. This staff member that I want to recognize tonight partners with many local groups to help provide the resources needed so our children and families have what they need, and she definitely tries to find out what that need is. She's not afraid to ask questions and ensure that she has the correct answer so that we have the information necessary to do our very best jobs to serve the students at North Topsail Elementary School. many occasions this year, she has stepped up to substitute in grade level classrooms whenever they were short staffed. And can you only imagine that? Each morning, you'll find her greeting all our students and checking in with anyone they may need just a pep talk. Throughout the day, it seems like she's never stops and is checking on students, running small groups, meeting with staff and parents on verifying paperwork. This staff member leaves for the day, and she is a busy wife, mother of 2 girls, a grad school student, and she is also very thankful that she has a positive influence on all the families at North Topsail Elementary School. And her name is Miss Kobe Garrison. And so that she's a school counselor, and I just wanted to take a moment of my public comments and recognize Miss Garrison. So thank you to the principal at North Topsail and to all the other staff members who made that information available. Thank you. The other thing I want to say is based on social media, and believe it or not, you can't believe everything's on social media. In fact, Abraham Lincoln once said, "Don't believe what you see on Facebook." But one thing that stands out to me that I want to just make publicly known on my own part, this is not a board comment, this is me as a board member. Pender County Schools is not getting into the vaccine business. We're in the education business, but many people in the community are thinking that we, based on tonight's agenda, that we are planning on starting vaccinating our children, and that is not something that our board, or at least I can speak for myself, we're part of having an agenda of doing. That's a parent's decision, and so I encourage parents to do the research themselves. And educators, we're going to do what we do best, and that is making sure that we are preparing the future for these young children at our schools. And so I, for one, am not someone that's behind the scenes trying to have vaccines being administered on our school campuses, and I believe I'd speak for the majority of the board, if not all of them. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Just lastly, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. McPherson, our attorney, and hopefully we need to add also in the future, Dr. Hill, we had talked about this before, about having a section on the agenda related to our attorney. I think we just kind of talked about this. What?
Comments.
For comments, so that he could also be listed to have a section at the time of comments, because he always has some good information that we probably need to get shared out there. As many of you know, there's been concern out there about what other districts are doing with Friday, the day after Veterans Day, and I could tell you my personal opinion, I could tell you my professional opinion, all, but today, talked to Mr. McPherson, and he also has some information that I really didn't know about, and some things that I've asked him, we've all asked him to share tonight. So I'm going to remove myself from the rest of my time, and I'm going to ask Mr. McPherson if he'll just kind of share a little bit about what you told us today, because I think this is information, because knowledge is power, and the more you know, the better that you are more versed in some issues. So if you will handle it from here, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Thank you so much, Board. Thanks for the opportunity to address this school day issue. As the Board knows, annually and subsequently thereafter, you pass a school calendar. As many of you who've been on the Board know and understand, there are specific statutory requirements related to that school calendar. The statute at play here is North Carolina General Statute 115C 84.2. And I say that because there are specific requirements regarding the number of student days along with the number of staff/employee days and the method by which school districts are allowed to design those calendars. So we'll start because one of the things I want to reference is an October 29, 2021 memorandum that was put out by the State Board of Education along with the General Counsel for the State Board of Education with the proliferation of mental health days. Okay, so in October, there were several school districts who decided to designate mental health days as paid days off. And not requiring anyone to come to work or to take leave for those days. Well, the State Board of Education, as the state regulatory entity, along with its general counsel, wanted to clarify exactly what the law is. So I'm going to summarize that for the board and for the public. And most importantly, the requirement for students is that there be a minimum of 185 instructional days or 1,025 hours per academic year. One of the things that your calendar committee does a great job of in this particular district is ensuring that y'all not only have the days, but the hours covered. Because in the event for some reason you don't hit the days, as long as you hit the hours, you don't have to add additional days to your school calendar. So I want to remind you guys of that and remind the public of that. Additionally, for staff, you have to have a calendar that includes 215 days. Now, why is that different than the number of student days? Well, there are several days that must be designated for staff to be at school when students are not, and those are work days. There are 10 of those in addition to your state holidays, and those holidays are designated by the State Human Resources Commission. So, in addition to your required work days and your state holidays, you have to have a minimum of 2 additional work days outside of when school is in session, outside of an annual leave day, which can be taken and is designated as an optional teacher work day, right? So those are days when students are not at school that a teacher can use their annual leave to not be at school. So any day that school is in session, regardless of whether there are kids there or not, it is either a national holiday, a teacher is using paid leave, or they're working. Those are the 3 options for educators. So, if a Board of Education in this state were to choose to create this wellness day, this mental health day, it's not anything more than a disguised version of an optional teacher work day, and it ends up costing teachers their annual leave, and it also prevents your certified staff from being paid for those days because there wouldn't be anyone there to work. Or for example, school bus drivers wouldn't be paid because there's no students there to pick up or drop off. Similar thing with custodial or child nutrition folks. So the last thing I want to point out is there's actually a constitutional prohibition against giving someone money for working when they are not entitled to it. So remember, I just said there are 3 reasons a teacher can take a day off. One is, or three ways during the school year a teacher can receive a day money, which is working, paid leave, or it's a paid holiday. If you were to choose, or if any board were to choose to give someone a paid day off that isn't authorized by statute, you would be creating what's known as an emolument. And an emolument is prohibited by the state constitution. And this reminder was sent out by the State Board of Education to say, hey, by the way, school boards, if you decide to create one of those, not only are you violating the state statute and you're, using money, state money, to do something that's prohibited, you're also violating the Constitution. So I think that is something for the public to consider when they think about the concept of wellness days, mental health days. That I understand the concept or the idea, but in lots of ways, the current method or the idea of just being able to willy-nilly give people days off, this Board of Education, just like every other Board of Education in the state of North Carolina, doesn't exactly have the power to do that, except for to call it an optional or a required teacher work day. And when you give someone something, all you're doing is just simply disguising what you've already called something and having to reinvent your calendar. And you guys work really hard on your calendar, and I'll just say that. There's a reason your team makes the decisions they do. So I will entertain any questions about that, but that's the facts of life about mental health days.
Thank you. Anyone, anything they want to add? All right, thank you, sir. Dr. Hill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One quick thing is I would like to announce that November is Career Development Month. And we have lots going on. We'll have our robotics, public safety, drone programs, of course mechatronics. Our tech engineering, design, and robotics folks and construction will be heading over to Cape Fear Community College. I believe that's November 18th for Manufacturing Day. They'll be speaking to all kinds of employers and industry folks in the region and learning about that. And our CTE clubs will have multiple activities going on this month to represent that. So just want to make sure the connection is there between what's happening with our CTE program. Flonnie's in the back if you got questions later on, if you want to grab her real fast. And everything she's doing to help support the school system and making sure we're doing that career, that basically classroom to career model that we've been talking about for years. And just did receive a text like 2 minutes ago. Tammy wanted to remind everybody that she left the PEP mini grant pamphlets in the lobby for anybody who'd like to pick one up on your way out. Just saying that. She doesn't give up.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Ferguson, since we were already in closed session and we have to go back in, what do I need to say at this time?
I would advise somebody to make the motion again.
To reconvene?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, we need a board member to please make a motion to reconvene closed session. We don't have to repeat all of that.
I would appreciate it if
That is awesome. Who is the lucky person? Mr. George said he did it the first time.
Shut it down.
I will happily pull up the motion for someone to read if you'll just give me a moment.
Oh, no, I have it right here. Mr. Hall?
The Pender County Board of Education will enter closed session subject to advice from the attorney pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A1 and A6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information under General Statute 115C319. Consider the matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee. The board will also go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318, 11A3 to consult with the board attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to consider confidential student matters, and provided in North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A1, the Family Educational Right and Privacy Act of 20 U.S.C. 1232G, and also the North Carolina General Statute 15C402. This closed session is also necessary to consider and give instructions concerning lawsuits entitled Byrne Fisher versus Pender County Board of Education, as in state and federal.
All right, Mr. Smith has made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. George is second, and all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So carried. Thank you. Time, board members, we need someone to make a motion to approve the HR report as presented.
Madam Chair, make a motion to approve the HR as presented.
Mr. Smith has made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hall is seconded. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? So carried. We need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Ms. Burns has made the motion. We adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. George is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?